Alright guys, how you doing? It's Rabea. Hope you're all well. So this video is aimed at all those guys that are looking to record high quality guitar tones at home without necessarily using, really expensive amps or, Axe effects or torpedoes or stuff like that. Just using your computer and some cool software that you can get for it. So I'm sure you've heard of Positive Grid. They did an app called Bias that if some of you guys have probably heard of it, but if you haven't, it's essentially a completely customizable amp building plugin or app for your iPad, iPhone, or your computer, where it lets you, in such heavy detail, work out how to build an amplifier, everything from the type of transformer, the tubes, everything. It's so intense, but people have gone crazy for it, and lots of really popular guitar players have created awesome presets that you can get from the Tone Cloud, it's all encompassing. It's like its own community. So you can use the app and download presets from guys like Mark Holcomb of Periphery, Tosin Abasi, Ola England, guys like that. You can just get them on your iOS device or your computer, and you're good to go with their exact settings. So it's really awesome, and it's created a real buzz around, digital amp modeling without, an outboard piece of kit. I think the main thing to talk about with this, software is that it really does replicate very, very well the sound of real tubes, real guitar amps, real pedals, because it's something that obviously you can never have too much gear, but it's expensive, and sometimes it's a lot easier and more portable to be driving around or traveling around with a laptop or an iPad, customizing your own tones to your heart's content, so it's really, really cool that Positive Grid have started doing this, and they've really pioneered this kind of technology in such a usable way, in such a user-friendly way, and it satisfies everyone, from guys that just want to plug in and have a good tone to all the nerds and geeky people like me that just want to fine-tune every single stage of their tone. So today we're looking at a brand new app called Bias Pedal. So I'm sure you can put two and two together and work out that Bias Pedal essentially looks at building pedals to the nth degree. So if I show you, I've got a screen share going on now, so hopefully it works. But I've got Logic open because this is the DAW that I use, and I'm just going to show you how we go about using Bias Pedal. So as you can see, I've got a session running right now, and it's it's actually recording everything that's going to go in. So if I look down here on my channel strips, I've got Bias Pedal set up here. So let's start by showing you the main screen that you'll see. Now it looks very, very similar to the Bias app if you've seen that. And what we're looking at here is a Tube Screamer looking pedal. If you go up to the menu, you can see there are loads of different ones. You've got a fuzz face, you can do the Boss style ones as well. So it's pretty cool. They've made it look very familiar to all those guys that know a bit about pedals and stuff. But I'm gonna stick with Tube Screamer. So there are a few stages to bear in mind at this point when you start designing your pedal, and that's things like pre and post EQ, and then you've got your clipping stage, your output stage, and your power module. And you could also do a pedal match, so you can A and B against the pedals. But let's just have a look through some of the stuff that you can do. So we're looking at pre-EQ, which is essentially going to be EQing the signal going into the clipping stage. So if I want my input signal to have little bass, I can do that here. If I want it to be mainly mids, I'll pull the high end down and I'll just boost the mid range, I'll just boost, around 500, 1K, something like that. Might put a bit more treble in. And so let's say that this is the EQ that I want the pedal to hear first. So we move to the clipping stage. Now, the clipping stage sort of defines the characteristics of the distortion, or the fuzz, or whatever it is, the type of pedal you're trying to customize. So everything from the bias, the amount of gain the pedal has, the type of distortion, the type of circuit, and then pre and post high and low cuts. So from left to right, you can see here we got pre, low and high cuts, which essentially shelves more low end or high end depending on how much you want to give the pedal at this stage. And this pot here is your gain pot. Now you can have a vintage or modern voice, as you can see here. I'm going to go with modern. And this is linked to the main control panel. So if I turn the gain up to full, you see the gain is on full. If I turn it all the way down and go back, it's linked. So I'm going to put that around the halfway point. But this control is your distortion, and this is how much the pedal is going to produce in the clipping stage. Now you've got your bias, which is, you know, the difference between a very aggressive sounding distortion or one that's a bit more crunchy, bluesy, kind of, really depends. The thing to remember is that with more gain you do get more, it brings out more harmonic content. So obviously if I boost the gain I'm going to get more low end, I'm going to get a little bit more mid and high end. It's just, it's all encompassing as gain. So just bear that in mind when you're in the clipping stage, because too much at this point is going to give you, it's going to make things harder later on. So that's why you know, you want to keep it kind of tame. So topology is the type of circuit. So if you click here, you can see the different types. So you've got germanium, silicon, JFET, MOSFET and tube. Obviously germanium and silicon are good for fuzzy sounds. JFET and MOSFET are more solid state kind of metal, I'd say, more sort of metally, you know, like a distortion sound. And tube is going to get you that kind of softer crunch kind of tones. And then you've got your post high and low cuts, so you can further shelf more low end. After customizing all this, you find there's still too much, but you like the way it sounds at pre, then in post you can shelf a little bit more if you want. So, and again, you've got on and off switches. Another important thing to remember is that we've got amp room here, so we're always referencing this pedal against an amp. And I've selected to use like a Vox AC30 type because it's reasonably clean and it's reasonably transparent as well. So now we're onto output stage. Now this is essentially what defines the overall tone of the distortion we've got. Again, you can see we've got a topology here. We can further change the way it sounds. So I'm going to go with tube at this point, just to mix things up a bit. So you hear how it's really tame. If I go to MOSFET, I'm going to stick with MOSFET actually, I prefer the sound of that. So here we've got more, we can add more distortion to the pedal itself. Don't forget that at this stage we're not affecting the main control panel. As you can see, that's at 12 o'clock. Inside the power stage, I'm actually, the output stage, sorry, I can add more distortion to the pedal. So here we've got a 3-band EQ, and essentially that's going to give us our sort of main characteristics of the distortion. So as you can see here, we've got the resonant tilt. So if I add it and then I add high end, it's going to keep the low end. So let me take it off for a second. If I add the high end, it's going to take the low end away. I've put all the low end in, so, and then I add resonate again. Loads of low end, take it off. I would say that it's probably not worth adding loads of low end to your sound, just because at the end of the day you can do that from your amp. The next bit to bear in mind is your post EQ. So I can further EQ this whole thing. To be honest, I want to keep it reasonably straightforward. Now moving to the power module. Now this is cool because this is where you can customize the type of battery that's in here. You know, they all sound different. So I actually like the sound of the 12-volt battery because it's got a little bit less low end and it's a little bit smoother in the mids. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy how much you can do with this. But as you can see, you've got compression as well, and that compresses the overall distortion of the pedal before it comes out. So I want to add a little bit more compression just to get those highs and lows tighter. And I can add a fast attack, and you've got different release. And obviously, attack is how fast it reacts to the signal, and release is how long it takes to die off. And again, we can boost the output of this pedal even more. So obviously, I haven't spent very long on this particular pedal preset, but I have got a separate preset which is here, and I can save it, which I have. And the cool thing is, if you go into your bank where you save and you click this little button that's effects on and off, what it does is it sends it to Bias Effects, which is, I'm sure some of you know what the Bias Effects app plugin is, because in that app you can actually do everything from different effects, different amps that you can build in Bias and export into here. Basically, Bias Effects is the sort of central hub for creating those perfect tones, where you can take your amps you've built in Bias, your pedals you've built in pedals, and then you can put them into this and you can create your own rig, essentially, stereo or straightforward. So I'd clicked the bias effects button in pedal. This is one of the presets that I've created. If I go into my sort of main window and I double click, you can see under the drive, because that's the type of pedal I've created, it's here. And there it is, test. So I click test, and there we go. And I've got it against this amplifier that I've used, and this is one of the sort of factory presets. I'm using some EQ at the back end, and then I've also got a bit of reverb there as well. So if I disengage pedal, because you don't want to be doubling up on the sound you've just created, opening bias effects and turning that on, this is the tone that we have now. I think that sounds immense, personally. I'm considering that it is a piece of software that's that convincing. It's nice to play, you know. And look where the distortion is. Let me boost the distortion now and get some ridiculously intense sustain. So I can take off the reverb if I don't want it there, and I can just play some riffing. So I take off some low end if I don't want so much. So there you go. I mean, it is a short video, but essentially, I could sit and play that for ages. That is a sound that I suppose it's definitely got those. It just feels good, you know, like it feels easy to do the whole shreddy, riffy thing. And to be honest, if I don't have an amp or a piece of outboard gear that I can use to track guitars, and I've just got my laptop and a little interface, then I'm good to go. I mean, my guitar's plugged straight into the interface. There's no other. What you're hearing there is exactly what the app is producing. And to be honest with you, I think it sounds absolutely bloody fantastic. I'm even surprised right now in this demo at how good that sounds. And as I say, it's just so straightforward. But it's straightforward at the same time as you can do so much with it. You can go so far in depth with. I mean, like I say, the bias effects is just building your rig, and you can change the view of it and all that kind of stuff to make it look like a pedal board or back to your main setup. But it really is the pedal that blows my mind, because I'm building a pedal in its entirety just through, like, I've never built a pedal in my life. I've designed a pedal there that it works like a tube screamer, and I've never done it before in my life, and that's awesome. Like, it reacts how you'd expect. It shelves a bit at the low end, tightens things up, gives me more sustain. I mean, the distortion is quite high, but, you know, and the tone works the same. you know, for shred as well. It's awesome. So, yeah, you know, awesome work, Positive Grid. You guys really are doing something, and like I say, there's a whole community around this. I could now upload this to the Tone Cloud, and I could allow people to download that sound. So I guess if you want it, then I can do that for you. But yeah, basically, that is the Positive Grid bias pedal and Positive Grid bias effects. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope it's gotten some of you guys excited, because I'm certainly excited. I don't know if you can tell that I'm excited, but that's awesome, and it means that you don't necessarily need loads and loads of gear to get a good quality tone. You can do it all on your computer, your iPad, your iPhone, whatever you want. So awesome. Anyway, I've been Beer. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please comment in the description below, let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys later.